Studies show that your attitude can have a greater impact on your success than your IQ. You can be extremely talented, have incredible potential, but if you don't have the right attitude, it will keep you from rising higher. And we spend all kinds of time and money making sure the outside looks good. Eating right, working out, wearing the latest fashions, and that's all fine, but too often we're not spending any time on the inside. Nice clothes won't cover up a bad attitude. A pretty face, perfect makeup won't hide being bitter on the inside. In high school, this new girl moved into town and she was very beautiful, very attractive, and I was shy, never had the nerve to talk to her. But our senior year, we had a class together. The seating was assigned. It just so happened I was sitting right next to her. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. And the first time I sat by her, I turned, just being friendly, and said hello, nothing more. She looked at me like I had just insulted her, like she was totally offended. She looked away and never said a word to me the whole semester. She was beautiful on the outside, but can I tell you, she was ugly on the inside. I never saw her the same way. A bad attitude makes you unattractive. It overrides what's on the outside. It's important to look good, to develop your skills, to get an education, but it's even more important to keep a good attitude. Nobody wants to be around a sour, critical, condescending person.
All you got to do is start changing the way you think. It's as simple as, it's not a magic trick. You can protect yourself from negativity. And that's what stops most people, negative thoughts. You can coat your mind from negativity. It's a real simple exercise to do. I do it every morning before I walk out the door. So I walk out as a positive person. You know, I get tired sometimes. That's different from being negative, because I get mentally drained from my job at times. But to coat your mind from negativity, the way you can put a coating around your mind is with one simple thing: gratitude. Gratitude erases negativity. I'm gonna show you how this works. If you wake up in the morning and you start having negative thoughts, man, this ain't my day. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm tripping, I just don't feel myself. Every time you feel in the middle of the day, if you feel yourself doing that, stop, just stop for a second and start going over in your mind everything you have to be grateful for. Not everything you want, everything you already have. Because what you have is substantial. You just haven't gone over the list and taken inventory in a long time. But the fact that you can walk, that's a blessing. The fact that you woke up, that's another blessing. The fact that you can see, think, reason, that's another blessing. The fact that you can go somewhere and get yourself something to eat, that's another blessing. The fact that you can go and turn the key and call someplace home, that's another blessing. The ability to dream is a blessing. The fact that you have an opportunity to get it right is another blessing. The fact that you're beautiful, that's another blessing. The fact that you have any measure of health, that's another blessing. And I'm just talking to you, I don't even know you. I could give you 50 things you ought to be grateful for right now. I don't even know you. Start coating your mind with gratitude. It'll change everything for you.
Colossians 3 in the Message translation says, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you: kindness, compassion, and humility. As parents, sometimes we pick out clothes for our children to wear. Our Heavenly Father has picked out something for us all to wear: kindness, being good to people, being pleasant to be around. When you're kind, you draw people to you. When you're good-natured, friendly, opportunity will come your way. People want to do business with people that they like. When we're hiring someone, their resume tells us what they can do, what their skills are, but we always meet with them to see what their attitude is. Are they positive? Are they friendly, kind, considerate? We can find someone else with the same skills. The real question is, do they have the attitude that's going to take us higher? They may be gifted, but a negative attitude will pull the team down. Your attitude is going to determine your altitude. It will determine how high or how low you go. Well, Joel, I've always been kind of negative, critical, condescending. That's just who I am. No, that's who you're choosing to be. That's not who you are. That may be how you were raised. That's what you saw growing up, but that's not how you have to stay. Try being kind, friendly, good-natured. You'll not only enjoy life more, but you'll go further. On an airplane, there's an instrument called an attitude indicator. It shows how level the plane is on the horizon. And if the pilot wants to ascend, he tilts the plane nose high. If he wants to descend, he tilts it nose down. It's the same principle in life. If you have a nose high attitude, if you're positive, you see the best, you're kind to people, you have a smile, because you're nose high, you're going to continue to rise higher. You're going to see God's blessings and favor. But if you're sour, hard to get along with, you don't want to go to work, bitter over disappointments, because you have a nose down attitude, your life is going to go that direction. And sometimes we're discouraged over what we brought on ourselves. It's not the enemy, it's our attitude. The good news is, all you have to do is make an attitude adjustment. It's not complicated. You can't change other people. You can't change how you were raised. A lot in life we can't control. But one thing we can all control is our attitude. Am I going to live this day negative, sour, seeing the wrong, chip on my shoulder, or am I going to live it in faith, positive, hopeful, seeing the best, being good to people? This is a choice that we have to make every day. If you're going to have a good attitude, you have to do it on purpose, because there will be all kinds of negative things that try to creep in. Bitterness, discouragement, self-pity. If you're not proactive, if you don't choose the right attitude, then the wrong attitude will show up.
The diseases of attitude. It's never that pleasant to talk about the negative, but we got to talk about it because life is part negative. These attitude diseases are like weeds that grow in the garden. It's a normal part of life. Here's a good phrase to note. Negative is normal. It's not successful, but it's normal. It's part of life. And here's the next key, in my opinion. You must learn to handle the negative. Don't ignore it. Handle it. Now, I know some people teach the other way. And listen to them, and listen to me, and then make up your own mind. Right? Don't be a follower. Be a student. But I say you got to handle the negative. You don't have to live in it. You don't have to dwell on it. But you do have to handle it, my opinion. I know some people teach, just turn your head real quick and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. They'll take your garden. So you've got to handle the negative. Here's what part of it is. It's called the Great War Between Good and Evil. Mr. Reynolds and I are working on a new book this year called The Great War Between Good and Evil. And there is a war on. The minute you were born, you got involved in the war between good and evil, between darkness and light, between negative and positive, between evil and good, between tyranny and democracy, between weeds and human activity. I mean, the war is on. If democracy sleeps, guess who never sleeps? Tyranny. In the absence of light, guess what's automatic? Darkness. If good does not arouse itself and become active, Guess what moves in? Evil. It's a war. A mental war, a physical war, a financial war, between enterprise and ease, between accomplishment and failure. It's a war. That's why there's an Old Testament phrase that gives the best advice for human activity when it says, 6 days labor, 1 day rest. Now, I'm sure we've taken that to mean, don't work all 7 days. Take one off. Here's what it also means. Only take one off. Or you're liable to lose the war. Now we've finally got that monkey off my back. And I discovered you could live the most incredible life free of worry. Not free of challenge, not free of difficulty, free of worry. I learned how to do it, and you can. Here's the next attitude disease. Overcaution. Some people never will have much. They're too cautious. Now, you can also be too reckless, but you can also be too cautious. This is called the timid approach to life. And my caution was always the risk. Risk used to drive me right up the wall. I used to say, what if this happens? It's called the language of the poor. What if this happens? And on top of that, if this was to happen, look at the fix I'd be in. I better not try. I could always ace myself out. Then I'll tell you what changed my whole life when I finally discovered it's all risky. The minute you were born, it got risky.
If you will get rid of the offense, the critical spirit, the negative attitude, you'll get that spring back in your step. You'll not only enjoy life more, but you'll see favor in greater ways. What could you be if your heart was totally unclogged? How high could you fly if you didn't have contaminants holding you back? It's time to find out. Get up every morning, start putting on this fresh new attitude. This day is a gift from God. It is filled with possibilities, new ideas, new friendships. I'm asking you, like that airplane, to live nose high, focused on the good, focused on the possibilities. If you'll do this, I believe and declare you're about to lift off. New doors are about to open, freshness in your relationships, healing, promotion, new levels, the fullness of your destiny in Jesus' name.
You can be all big and muscle bound and still not have no force behind your punch. Force, energy in motion. You can't have energy sitting. Energy is measured by motion. Sit down and shut up and feel sorry for yourself. I feel a determination in here this morning. I feel a fight in here this morning. Don't you get 40 and get tired. Don't you get 50 and get tired. Don't you get 60 and get tired. I'm not talking about a bad man. I'm talking about a good man. Don't you sit there and say, oh, that won't happen to me because I'm good. No, it's going to happen to you because you're good. The reason the deal went down is because God ordered you to go up the steps. He didn't intend for you to go up the elevator. You got there too fast, you wasn't going to be ready for it. He slowed down your process. He let the deal go down. When it's time, it's going to happen. When it's time, you're coming out of trouble. When it's time, can't no grave hold your body down.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Your imagination is the evidence of things not seen. Because your imagination, you are the only one who can see it. Your imagination is God showing you coming attraction He has for you. Your imagination ain't no hocus pocus. This ain't just you coming up with these wild and random thoughts. God shows you something he has for you. The problem with your imagination is you tell it to the wrong people.
Some people call fear false evidence or expectations appearing real. A guy living in an area where he had some new neighbors, and these neighbors had a bulldog. This bulldog used to chase him about a half a block from his house every day. He would just run. This bulldog would be right on his heels. He just got tired of that. He would go walking casually along, and this bulldog come out of nowhere. Woo! He'd run home. So this one day, he just got tired. The bulldog was running after him. He started running. He saw a rock, and he stopped to pick it up to throw at the bulldog. And he started barking. He realized the bulldog didn't have any teeth in his mouth. And so, you know what? Most people go through life running scared from things that have no teeth in them because they're false expectations appearing real.
What if I never get married? What if you do? How much time are you wasting worrying? What if this pain in my side is something serious? Go to the doctor, get checked out, but don't spend 3 years worried, then find out it was nothing. Jesus put it this way: don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have enough worries of its own. God has given you grace for today. You don't have grace for tomorrow. Don't try to figure out the next 5 years, play out all the what ifs. The what ifs will depress you. The truth is, if a what if does come to pass, God will give you the grace to handle it. What if the report's not good? What if my loved one doesn't make it? What if I do get laid off, Joel? Then the peace that passes understanding will be right there waiting for you. God promises He will arm you with strength for every battle. We may not know what the future holds, but we do know who holds the future. Now, don't miss today worried about tomorrow. Today is a gift. We can never get this day back. I believe, like with me, many of the things you're worried about are not going to happen. If they do, it's not going to be as difficult as you think. You don't have the grace for it today. And sure, we should plan, we should use common sense, but at some point, you have to turn it over to God and say, God, you know what's best for me. You said you'd give me grace for every season. Just like you clothe the lily of the fields, just like you feed the birds of the air, I know you will take care of me. It's very freeing when you learn to turn things over to God. You're not supposed to go through life weighted down by worry, stress, anxiety. Start lightening your load. Go back to the still waters. Empty all that out. Really, it's important every morning. You should start the day off in peace, not stressed, hurried, rushing around. Look at the sunrise. Listen to the birds singing. Breathe in God's goodness. Thank Him for His blessings in your life. Hebrews talks about entering into the rest of God. That means you have a problem, but you're not losing sleep over it. You know God is still in control. This is one of the main ways we show God we're trusting Him, by staying in peace. Not up when your circumstances are up, down when they're down. You're stable, you're consistent, you're in the rest of God. 2002, the Houston City Council members voted for us to have this facility. It was a 2-year battle. We'd worked hard, convinced different council members, and God caused everything to fall into place. The vote was on a Wednesday morning. That evening, we had a great celebration at the church. The next morning, Victoria and I and our 2 small children went out of town to take a few days off. We were on cloud 9. We couldn't believe that it happened. Got to the hotel and started unpacking our bags, and my brother-in-law Kevin called. He's our administrator. He said, Joel, a large company just filed a federal lawsuit to try to keep us from moving into the Compact Center. They said we violate the deed restrictions. I asked him what that meant, and he said it means that we can't move into the property because it's tied up in the legal system, and the attorneys say it can take up to 10 years to resolve, and there's no guarantee that we could win. I hung up the phone, and Victoria overheard the conversation. She stopped unpacking and said, Joel, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go down to the beach. She said, what are you going to do there? And I said, I'm going to swim. She said, aren't you worried? Aren't you stressed? Aren't you upset? I said, no, Victoria, we've done what we can do. Now it's in God's hands. And I told her, I'm not going to worry about something that I can't change. I learned my lesson. I'm not putting up another worry tree. I am going to stay at rest and trust God to fight my battle. Are you losing sleep over something you can't do anything about? As long as you're honoring God, being your best, then you can rest. You may be facing an illness. You can't make yourself get well. Of course, do what you can, use common sense, but at some point, you have to turn it over to God and say, Lord, I trust you to bring the healing, but in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy my life. Worrying doesn't help you to heal. Living stressed, uptight, studies show that weakens the immune system. Come back to a place of peace. Or you may have people in your life that are not making good decisions. You can't make people do what's right. Don't let their poor choices sour your life. You have to protect your peace. Don't go the next 20 years all worried about somebody else. Turn them over to God. If you'll get off the throne, so to speak, and stay at rest, then God will get on the throne and do what you can't do. In His own way, His own timing, He'll make things happen. But really, if God is not changing them yet, what makes us think we can change them in our own strength? And sure, we should be good examples. We should pray. But what I'm saying is you shouldn't live stressed out over somebody else's poor choices. You have a destiny to fulfill. You need your energy, your wisdom, your creativity to become all God's created you to be. Are you trying to change things that only God can change? Your load will get a whole lot lighter if you'll turn it over to Him and enter into His rest. Acts chapter 12, King Herod had Peter arrested and put in prison. He didn't like the fact that Peter was a follower of Christ. Peter was in the dungeon, chained between two soldiers. The next morning, he was going to be brought to trial. Herod had already killed James. It looks like Peter would be next. You can imagine what Peter must have been thinking. But that night, an angel appeared in the prison. He went to wake Peter up, but Peter was sleeping so soundly, the scripture says the angel had to shake Peter to awaken him. Now, if you knew the next day your life may come to an end, you were in great danger, would you be sleeping soundly? Or would you be pacing the floor, stressed out, God, please help me. God, please don't let them kill me.
as you're gearing up to step back into your normal life, if you haven't already done that, I thought I'd just give you 5 quick little triggers, just reminders that are so simple, but these are the 5 things that I personally did when I first got kicked out of my house. Some of you know the story. I remember I was so depressed. I don't know if you've ever been to that place where you're like wondering why you're even around or whether you should be around. It was a pretty brutal time. But what turned me around was feeding my mind. What I mean by that is about a year earlier, I'd gone to this seminar by Jim Rohn. I know many of you have heard of Jim. I went to a seminar with 17, and in the seminar, he really talked about the importance of feeding your mind, and you've got to feed it because otherwise things come at you. And so I remember I took the little bit of change I had left in my pocket, and I got on a bus, and I drove, they drove me anyway on the bus for about, I don't know, it's about an hour's away from where I was because I'd been to this place once before, had this amazing bookstore. And I figured I'll go in there and I'll just read a bunch of books while I'm in there because I can't afford any. And then I picked up a book called The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol. And in this book, it talked about training and conditioning your mind and how what goes in your mind becomes the experience of your life and how to do it. And I was so depressed, I didn't know what to do. And so I went and I'll never forget, I went back to this little laundry room and there was a mirror there and the book said, put your goals on the mirror so you look through your own eyes into your goals and you see in your own eyes and you read those goals. Do it with soap. And so I did it in the mirror. And then I made these little posters that said things like, only a loser is depressed. Now that's not true. But I felt like I'm not a loser, and that was the leverage I had, right? I can't be depressed if the loser's depressed. And so I just try to work on everything. But gradually I started turning my life around, and I did 5 things, and I did them again, I gotta tell you, multiple times in my life when I hit really bad places, when I was told I had a tumor in my brain, and that, I might die, when I buried all 4 of my fathers over the course of a year and a half, and my mother. Those are rough times, they start to shift you. When 2008 happened and looked like everything was going under. And I went back and I reapplied them here at the beginning of the pandemic as well. So they're really simple. But first, of the 5 keys to transform your life, I don't care where you are, how great it is, if you can get to the next level, the first step is stand guard at the door of your mind. And I got that from my teacher, Jim Rohn. I remember he came to me one day and I was really frustrated. I was saying, I'm working so hard and nothing's really working and I don't understand it. And I was super frustrated. And remember, he came to me and he said, Tony, he said, listen to me. He said, tell me what are you reading? He said, tell me who you're talking to. He said, tell me who you're surrounding yourself with. And I said, well, I'm mostly isolated by myself. And I said, but I'm so frustrated. He said, listen to me. He said, answer this question for me. He said, what happens in the world if, let's say, your worst enemy comes by and drops sugar in your coffee? And I said, well, you don't have sweet coffee. He said, well, what if your best friend, even by accident, drops 1 drop of strychnine? What if it's your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, somebody you love, accidentally drops 1 drop of strychnine? I said, well, then you'd be dead. He goes, that's right. So remember, life is both sugar and strychnine, so watch your coffee. And what he really meant was stand guard at the door of your mind. Because today, we live in a world where the media, they're not bad people, they're good people, but they're companies. And they got to take care of their shareholders. And the only way they win is by getting your eyeballs. And the only way they get your eyeballs in a world where there's so much information is to startle you. The news is not designed to educate you or inform you. You know that. That's why it says drinking water may kill you. Film at 11. Anything that grabs you. And so we're living in a culture of so much fear. So if you're going to take your life back, you got to take into a limited amount of that media and be able to pursue it, not let it pursue you. Today, most people, in order to get your attention, we all know what they do. It's called clickbait. Let me create a headline that'll grab you. It doesn't matter if the content is even real news or not. A lot of times the headline isn't really what the whole story is, but it pulls you in. There's whole groups of people whose entire life is designing algorithms and language to make you stay online more so they can make more money, but it isn't necessarily to your advantage. So what Jim Rohn used to say to me is, he said, Tony, this is your new daily practice, because this is what I really want to get to you guys here, is if you want to keep momentum, if you join me for those few days there, the 5-6 days or 7, I guess we did for the challenge, or you went immersion with me as well, the key is to get momentum and keep momentum. If you work your tail off to get momentum going and then you drop it, oh my God, you got to start all over again. And so the way you do that is you have a daily practice.
All of the problems we face today are wicked. None of them submit to singular binary solutions. So rather than these diseases of despair being something over in the kind of humanitarian and social services space, and these wicked problems being over here in kind of the techno-utopian disruptor space, might we consider them flip sides of the same coin. And if we do, how on earth can we begin to solve these wicked problems? And interestingly, the simplest is to think Roger Martin at the Rotman School of Business up in Canada wrote a great book. If anybody hasn't read it, super encouraging. It's called The Opposable Mind. And his premise, after surveying A.G. Lafley at Procter & Gamble, Martha Graham, creatives and leaders and innovators across disciplines, realized that what these folks do that virtually or very few others are consistently able to pull off is that they are able to creatively hold the tension between dynamic and opposing ideas. And that sounds really straightforward. That sounds like the fodder for gajillions of dollars of management consulting workshops and off-site retreats, right, to all get to our innovative place. But reality is that's not a skill set. It's actually a state of mind. And that state of mind is actually tunable today. Now, anthropologists have a very specific term for this. They classify cultures by whether those cultures are monophasic or polyphasic. And that's just a complex way of saying one channel of consciousness or many channels of consciousness, right? And if you think back to most traditional societies, they are polyphasic. They recognize and validate dreams, premonitions, possessions, trances, visions, you name it, epileptic seizures. They're all like, well, what did you, if you come into the kitchen, in rural Mexico, 50 years ago, you say, Abuela, I just had this dream. They're like, oh, shut up. That's just your unconscious projections of your unresolved issues with your mother. Have your cereal, right? No, they say, what did grandfather say to you? Oh, let's act on that, right? So how did we end up in this monophasic culture? Well, you wind back the clock, and blame it on the French, right? So the Enlightenment, Descartes, right? Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Give me 5 senses. Give me ration, reason, and empiricism, right? Let's get rid of superstition. Let's get rid of all of those things and let's create, right, this rational, binary, logical world. And it worked beautifully. I mean, let's give full credit. We would not be here in a climate-controlled, high-tech building, community, city. We wouldn't be able to do any of the things that we do without that rational, binary, logical, prefrontal cortical self. So let's, give it up for the PFC, okay? But, right, we never built an off switch. We forgot to build an off switch. And Mark Leary at Duke, who wrote a book called The Curse of Self, literally describes that pernicious problem. We turned on this hyper self-aware, always on hamster wheel mind of ours. And particularly is that how it's now intersected with this information ridiculous superhighway where we all just get flattened on a daily basis. It's killing us. So the possibility is, what's happened to our dial? And is it completely rusted shut, stuck on this one channel? Or do we have the ability to kind of just rock it loose, lube it up a bit, and regain and reclaim the full spectrum of consciousness and awareness that will allow us to begin taking a crack at the wicked problems that we are all facing and that everyone in this room is committed to solving.
Never let yourself be the victim. If I could go back in time and have a conversation with my 8 to 10-year-old self, that would be the message I would give. Because when you think about it, you're a kid, things don't go your way, what do? You cry, you whine, you throw a fit, you want your parents to feel sorry for you. You feel sorry for yourself.
When you can realize that your worst days were truly your best days. When you can realize that every human being goes through pain and injustice, some more than others, but everyone goes through it. Everyone's had someone be completely unjust to them. Everyone has had someone hurt them who they loved and cared for deeply, or they trusted, or they looked to for support or love. It's part of how we grow spiritually. There's no possibility
To build muscle without something, you have to lift. And if you don't lift it, it will crush you. And if you lift it, it will be painful. It's not easy to lift those things. But the day in which you finally find inside yourself the story and state that finally makes you no longer be willing to be pressed down by your past, that's the day your life not only changes, but you also now have the ability to give a gift to others. And the most beautiful day, though, is the day when you go, if it wasn't for all that I hated most, I wouldn't have what I love most. Realizing that there was a meaning in all of it and that it served something greater than just little me.
And now they want to throw shade at you, but your shield deflected it. You tell them winning in progress over here. So please eliminate the negative vibe. It's time to remove them from your circle and find yourself a positive tribe. Because misery loves company. But that misery cannot have any of your companionship. Because everybody on your team is working as a unit to come back and win the championship.
Measure your success. Long story short, every day you should wake up with a point to prove. Do you know how many people didn't get the opportunity to wake up this morning, young one? Statistics show 6,316 people die an hour. Again, do you know how many people didn't get the opportunity to wake up this morning, young one? Do you know how many people didn't eat this morning? Humble yourself.
When you face opposition, you gotta be able to come out of that box. You gotta be able to adjust. You gotta be able to be the person that you were meant to be. I'm not talking to the people that's not supporting you. I'm not talking to the people that's not in your corner, that's standing up and clapping, or the people that's telling you and pushing you and telling you that you can do it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the person that you look at in the mirror, because the only competition is you.
The only person you can truly blame is you, because you are the only person who can get yourself out of it. Live life a victor, not a victim. You say, why me? You should say, try me.
Greatness is your destiny. But at times you must reboot your mental computer, because every step you take today will directly affect your future.
Hi, welcome back to Mind Control, where we inspire and motivate you. Hope you enjoy the video.
No, focus is a terrible thing. Kids don't follow you. Wealth doesn't follow you. Love doesn't follow you. You have no focus. You date everybody. You flirt with everybody. Eventually you end up lonely and empty because your efforts never focus. It was cute at 20. It's a mess at 40 because you have no focus. Almost as bad as no focus is wrong focus. Wrong focus is when you should be committed to this, you are worried about that. Wrong focus. Fighting the wrong battle. Arguing about the wrong thing. Putting right efforts in wrong places means you have wrong focus. You are eating the fruits today of yesterday's focus. Where you are right now is a result of the focus you put in 10 years ago. I was mentoring a young man, and I told him, I said, what you slay in your 30s, you will eat in your 50s. Be careful what you slay. If you slay nothing in your 30s, you will starve in your 50s. You have to have a plan, a strategy, a long-range plan of where you're trying to go with your life. That's what mentoring is all about. Worse than that is not to slay anything all the way into your 50s and then not be prepared for your 70s. Because at your 70s, you're going to eat the bounty of your focus in your 50s. And you spend all of your time trying to straighten out the neighbors and chasing down rumors and worried about what people say and managing what people think about you and worried about your image and worried about what's going on over in Korea somewhere. Wrong. Focus.
Concentration. Focused concentration. You've got to identify your target. Let nothing stand in your way. You've got to keep your eye on the target until you've released the arrow. Let nothing capture your attention unless it's in the best interest of your ambition. Let not an obstacle come before you without getting around it, going over it, going under it, trying a different path until you get there. Concentration in sports is crucial. The consummate professional on the field or on the court won't hear the jeering of the crowd. Their concentration keeps all noise and clutter at bay. They have one thing in mind, and that's moving the ball. You have to have just one thing in mind, keeping on track, closing out all the noise and the clutter that gets in your way, going around all the obstacles of negativity and influence. In a tennis match, how long does it take for your opponent to return the ball? Not very long. And what if you lose your concentration? Game's over. One little slip of concentration, just that fast, one little slip of concentration. Your opponent puts the ball by your feet, and there goes the tennis match. In a major presentation, just lose your concentration for a flash of a second. And I'm telling you, you could lose it all. All the hard work, all the long hours, all the preparation, all the momentum building to that crucial presentation could be gone if you don't keep your concentration. If you don't watch your audience, if you don't keep your mind on what you're doing, if you don't keep focused on the task at hand, it could slip right on by you. Wherever you are, be there. Whatever you're supposed to be doing for the moment, do it. You can't be thinking of everything you have to do at one time, all the time. You have to concentrate on just one thing at a time, one project, one job. You have to take it one task at a time and complete it. Do what you've set out to do. Keep your mind only on that one task. Why? If you don't, you won't accomplish anything. Concentration takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to demand privacy, to keep the do not disturb sign on your door while you're in the middle of an important job. It takes a lot of discipline not to answer the phone every time it rings at home. That's why they make voicemail and answering machines, so you don't have to answer the phone every time it rings. Your family will appreciate an uninterrupted dinner hour. Your night work will get done a whole lot faster. Concentrate on the work at hand and demand of yourself the discipline to stay focused. If you have a long list of things to get done within a day, do the toughest ones while your concentration is at its peak. If you're a morning person, get the job done in the morning. Don't wait until the evening when your energy is all spent. No, do the jobs that need the most concentration when your body is best able to handle them. If you're a night person, save those tough jobs for the night, not in the morning when you've still got cobwebs in your brain. Learn your body's rhythms and do the jobs that need the most concentration when you're able to do them best. When you're at work, be at work. When you're in a conference, be in that conference. Don't let your mind wander. Stay focused. Stay focused on the task at hand or the company you're with. Don't let your mind wander during conversations. You never know what important points you'll miss. Stay focused. Stay true to where you are and what you're doing. Use your discipline to keep your mind in line. When you recognize the need to concentrate more, when you recognize this need, and when you discipline yourself to stay focused, it will come easier and easier. Focused concentration can be learned. Focused concentration can become a habit. If you work on it every day, the easier it comes, the less energy you'll waste on making your mind you.
Number one cornerstone of an ambitious person: concentration. Focus, concentration. Make your mind pay attention. Discipline yourself to be where you are. Work at work and play at play. Don't mix the two. Concentrate. Give your job the attention it deserves. Give your family the attention they deserve. Wherever you are, be there. Concentrate.
I want to ask you, and I know you've done things you feel good about, things that you can pat yourself on the back for, but how many of you know if you had your life to live over again, you could have done more than what you've done thus far? Raise your hands, please. Now, that proves a point that what we do and what we accomplish in life is only a tip of the iceberg for you. And so I want you to think about three major goals as you look at your life right now and look forward into the future. This is a very challenging time. As we begin to reflect on our lives in this milestone, so I want you to think about three major goals in three areas. Number one, I want you to think about some personal goal. My first personal goal was to buy my mother a home. And I used to walk around these big, beautiful mansions, and I said, Mama, and she said, what is it, boy? I said, when I become a man, I'm going to buy you a big, beautiful home just like this. And I did that, bought her 4 different homes before she passed. Next thing is I want you to think about your financial goal. One of the goals that I wanted to do was become financially independent. People say money won't make you happy, but everybody won't find out for themselves. And let me tell you something, fellas, even if you're as homeless as I am, you got some money, women will find something cute on you. I want you to think about a financial freedom number, that once you earn that amount of money, you'll be debt-free. Once you earn that amount of money, it will alleviate a great deal of stress. Once you earn that amount of money, you'll be able to spend more time with yourself and with your family members and be able to donate to causes that you feel strongly about. I want you to just pull that up mentally for yourself. And then whatever that number is, I want you to multiply it 100 times. Because I've found that most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss. I realize that most people fail in life because they've done what I did the first part of my life. Aim too low and hit. And many don't aim at all. Now I want you to think about your social contribution. Horace Mann said we should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. One of the goals I have is to reduce the number of women who die from breast cancer. Mama was a 22-year breast cancer conqueror. One of the goals Owner and I have, teaching people how to tell their story, how to make an impact, how to give people hope, and create an experience that will challenge them to expand their skill set and to develop collaborative, achievement-driven relationships and build a financial empire. But as you think about these three goals, your personal goal, your financial goals, your career goals, and your social contribution, let us say together with conviction, it's possible. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as we look at our goals and dreams, every day we have to begin to revamp our thinking. We have to begin to sell ourselves on the ability to do that, to say it's possible, and we have to convince ourselves of that on an ongoing basis. Because we live in a world where we're told more about our limitations rather than our potential. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, you never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. And if there's no door, his very nature will demand one. So every day you have to begin to work on yourself. I never forget a gentleman that I'll talk to today, Mr. Leroy Washington. I met him my junior year in high school. I came in his classroom looking for MacArthur Stevens. And he said, young man, go to the board and work this problem out for me. And I said, sir, I can't do that. And he said, why not? I said, I'm not one of your students. He said, go to the board and work the problem out anyhow. And I said, I can't do that, sir. And the other students started laughing, saying, he's Leslie. He's got a twin brother, Wesley. Wesley's a smart twin. He's the dumb twin. And the students laughed, and he came from behind his desk. He looked at me, and I said, I am, sir. And he said, don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. That was a turning point in my life. On one hand, I was humiliated, but on the other hand, I was liberated. Because he looked at me with the eyes of Goethe, who said, look at a man the way that he is, he only becomes worse. But look at him as if he were what he could be, then he becomes what he should be. There are people who will say you're not qualified. There are people who won't give you a shot. When you have goals and dreams, think it not strange that you face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will have tribulation. Didn't say you might. You will. It's going to be extremely challenging for you. But here's what I can say to you. You are different. You're uncommon. You have an uncommon desire to control your own future. One great American said, I choose not to be a common man. It's my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to live from hand to mouth. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence. The thrill of fulfillment to the still calm of utopia. I will never cower before any master nor bend to any threat. It's my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to face the world boldly and say, this I have done. An uncommon desire to control your destiny. Give yourselves a round of applause.
We'd like to thank you so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Please also like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and families. Please watch our other motivational videos. Thank you again.